Hello and welcome to the Fourth Brain Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. In this season, we work on giving companies a playbook to how to deal with AI agents in their business. Today, I have the pleasure of a very special guest, Amir Elion. Amir is an experienced innovation and transformation leader. He most recently led the innovation and transformation program for Amazon Web Services in the Nordics, helping them and their customers build new products and experiences that delighted their customers. He is now an executive advisor on innovation and AI, and he has also worked in multiple startups driving products and innovation. So welcome, Amir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you for having me. I follow this podcast, and we've been talking for a while. Maybe we could have a nice conversation. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been long overdue. We've been talking about this quite a long time. But maybe let's not make people wait anymore. Today, we're going to talk about what companies should think about and how should they think about it when it comes to the impact of agents, this AI revolution on their innovation strategies, on their R&D strategies, and so on. So maybe I can ask you the first question. How do you see these agents or mostly generative AI solutions changing the traditional R&D processes and innovation processes?
Yes. So first of all, talking about what is the possible value, right? And this has started to happen even before agents, when generative AI just came out. And the way that I try to describe this to leaders is I divide it into kind of four categories. One is, this is obviously a productivity boosting opportunity for the processes, and we can break that down a bit later even more. It's an opportunity to create value to customers and stakeholders by putting the technology inside your products and in the customer workflows. And it's also a disruption opportunity, because you can kind of even rethink value chains, operating models, business models. And the fourth one, which again we'll probably come back to later, is it enables you to build the capabilities of the organizations, the teams, and the people. So these value options or opportunities have been there even before agents, right? When we just started to discover this with the generative AI solutions.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but now with agents, we can definitely take them to the next level, and some of them become so much more relevant and important to look into, definitely for leaders.
No, and I think the one thing that I usually do as public service is to say agents are not chatbots. It's beyond that. And I think people need to remember it. And that's why you need to pay attention and have a plan for them.
Yes.
So, but if you go beyond that, I think, can you give us some ideas of where you see these kind of things, actually the initial impacts on how the workflows look like, how the innovations on the management level should be planned, and so on?
Yes. So first of all, obviously, there's different maturity levels, different places that I see companies thinking about it. Some of them that haven't started this journey are a bit at a loss or overwhelmed. Others that have already done the pilots, even have some things in production, they're more mature and more ready to take it to kind of the agent or the agentic approach. I'm starting to see this anything from trend, market analysis, customer discovery, and opportunity discovery, then into product development, portfolio development, product development. Depending on your industry and your technology, it could go into kind of deep research, such as material science and production planning and all kinds of even chemistry and biological science. In other aspects, with the business flow, it goes later to marketing and sales. Innovation can happen basically in all these functions and across the industries. So this is why this is general purpose technology, and with agents it's even more so.
That is a very cool comment, and I always say like the coolest, biggest innovations happen when you see two different disciplines overlap. And the way I've seen it, at least in generative AI, it actually enables people who don't have experience in a specific uh, discipline to try to explore things and do things that way. But I want to shift gears slightly, and also because it's been on the news quite a lot lately because of DeepSeek. Get your point on open source versus closed source, and how do you see that impacting innovation in companies as well?
Yeah, so obviously this is like a constantly moving landscape. 1 week that one thing comes out, and then the next week you get the answer from OpenAI, and then the others are gonna respond as well. Definitely open source. When I talk to organizations, there from some of them I hear the tendency to look for those options. I think there's still a gap there in terms of tooling and ease of use. So you need to be a bit more technical. You need to experiment more. You need to build the infrastructure for that in order to really make use of open source. Some of the cloud providers are trying to kind of bridge that gap and offer open source based solutions in a more user friendly way. Um, it remains to be seen who runs faster. Who there's also regulatory and governments getting involved and meddling in this fight. Not to mention China and the US as the bigger fight there. But I believe we will have both in the landscape. We will have proprietary with the relevant advantages and open source. The What I think we'll see organizations being careful of is from lock-in, right? So we might, like today we see multi-cloud, we might see multi-agentic or multi-AI um, strategies as well.
Yeah, I think that this is a very interesting thing that you just mentioned, because my personal view is that over time, at least the LLM models or the lower level models will start moving towards what you just said, commoditization.
Yes.
Everybody wants to basically have the same thing. They don't care. It becomes like yet another airline industry that nobody makes money on that layer. You need to figure out what is the value added you add on top of it. And I think the other thing that you just mentioned also about tooling, I would like to see the Red Hat of AI, the same way as Red Hat made Linux accessible, and then over time your former employer AWS and others came and basically created an infrastructure around that basically is easy to use, of Linux and so on. That is, I don't think, not yet in the market.
Well, we're
What do you
seeing
think?
some of that. Like you can see if you follow like Glean, for example, that's an example of a company that's trying to connect the foundation layer, right? The different models, the different capabilities with the application or the end user layer, and making and simplifying. We're seeing it from others, like the studios that the cloud providers. I think they're not there yet, but definitely maybe the next big startups are going to be there. We also see this in some of the specific vertical use cases, like specific, for example, programming. We are seeing that software development, right? The tooling is developing on top of the foundational models.
Exactly. To programming is the one that's basically mainstream now. Everybody can
Yes.
use it, and there's so many good products for that. But what about physical products? Where do you see those being impacted?
Yeah, so I think there's still a way to go. We've seen, in the realm of material research, we've seen AlphaFold 3 from Google coming out. There's more to be released, I believe, in biology. There's more to be released in material science. So that will be the foundational layer, or that products will be built on top of. And I'm already hearing some very interesting cases and we'll come back to this maybe when we talk about the R&D use cases of agents, where they have access to those tools or platforms, and they act as researchers by using those platforms. So there's more. There's obviously from NVIDIA. There's things around spatial and robotics and the physical world. So these are going to be the tools that everybody use, humans and agents. So we're not there yet. There's still not as so language is easier than as understanding physical reality. So the models still need to get there. We're seeing some quirky stuff in the video side of things, but it's getting better.
So, and then you touched on R&D processes and scientific research specifically, because there's a lot of scientific research in many industries going on when they're actually trying to develop and innovate. The way I see it, it's basically a super booster of their way of being and being researching things and so on. What do you think? Where should people think that they should go first? If I'm an executive in a large enterprise research and R&D product heavy company, what should I know about these tools and where should I put my money and bet on?
Yes. So I would say, first of all, the productivity piece, the thing, getting things, 20%, 30% faster, better, easier. Give that to your CTO. Give it to the kind of the operations people. There's lots to do there, and these are kind of the lower hanging fruit. Start reaping those fruits.
Yep.
But for the really kind of forward thinking ones, I would say reimagine things, because I'll give you an example that kind of blew my mind, or actually made me realize things that are on their way. So there's a recent report or a study by Stanford University, computer science and biomedical science, and they teamed up and they said, and they actually had a very particular use case, researching a new treatment for the latest strain of SARS COVID virus. And they said, what if we could do this with AI researchers or AI agents? And they set up an architecture where there was a lead researcher, AI researcher, and that researcher decided which other experts, AI experts, does it need, like data scientist and immunologist and so forth. There's a way now to train them to become specialists. They were connected to all these kind of lab tools and AlphaFold and the rest. And cutting the story a bit short, basically the humans that guided this research wrote about 3% of the text, the code, the outputs of the research. The agents altogether came up with 97%. The results were quite surprising. There were some very innovative results. And just to kind of inspire people, we see things that are not possible with humans. So one of the cases or the ways that they've used it, so usually you would have like a research team sitting down, having a discussion. We have this challenge. How are we going to address it? Which approaches are we going to try? Now with humans, you would have this like an hour to 2 hours, all the specialists chiming in and discussing and coming up with solutions. Now with the virtual agents, what happened? They had the same meeting with the same starting point, the same agenda, but 5 times in parallel.
Wow.
So obviously you can't do this with humans. You can't erase what we've talked about in the other meeting. But if you do this 5 times in parallel, and then you synthesize all the 5 approaches, or do it 100 times, and then you come up with so much better solutions. Now, especially now with reasoning engines that are much stronger, and I think the cost, by the way, that they quoted for the inference for all this research was $100 for the entire research.
Wow.
So this is a time to really think big, right? How can we completely revolutionize the way that we do research? Whether you're planning a car or an airplane, or you're in life sciences and doing material research, or in retail or finance, right? And coming up with new products, new business models.
This is very interesting, because then what it means, and what that actually just made me realize is that we humans cannot really multitask. That is our one of it, no matter how much we claim we can. In reality, nobody can really do multitasking well, and then the productivity goes exponentially down when you try to do too many things in parallel. But agents and AI models don't have that limitation. They actually don't need to do one thing at a time. They can do a ton of them in parallel.
And
And
not
then,
just multitask, but clone, you know? They
exactly,
can clone themselves.
exactly, and that means that you will get exponential benefit if you have processes that needs cloning can be done instead of in sequence in parallel with
Hmm.
multiple agent forces or agent people. That would be an interesting thing to think about. Like, what are the processes? What are the things that you're doing that actually has the potential of being parallelized, right?
Exactly. And I think this is what you just touched upon is a very good lesson for leaders. You know, rethink the constraints that you have in mind. You know, we've been doing things the same way or, you know, constrained by human or physical resources for years now. Now it's a good opportunity to rethink the constraints. And if you do this earlier, then you have an edge.
That's cool. So, but then maybe let's go one step further. Not everyone does deep research and the kind of research that the Stanford's labs do. They're mostly focusing on product development and prototyping. What's happening there?
Well, a lot, and it's already impacting product management and product delivery. I'm using it all the time, right? So I was director of products in a couple of startups, and you know, building products is hard, and testing them is hard, and it takes time. And again, there's resource constraints, right? You have developers, you have designers, you need to meet the customers, you need to get feedback. All of that can be reimagined, and now we actually have very good tools to help in many steps of the product. So I work with product teams, and I help them reimagine how to do this. But just to give you, even myself, right? I've been building products I did a funny exercise. I reached out on LinkedIn and told people, listen, I want to test these tools, this product design, UX design, even like, although I'm not a coder, like coding tools, and give me use cases. I'll Over 30 days, I'll try to build one every day in 30 minutes with those tools. And I was, you know, at least prototype or POC or demo, I could do this. So, and I'm doing this, and you know, in one project that I did just now, in parallel for a customer, we had a very high-end UX design company going through the process, taking the time. It took them 3 weeks, although they like really accelerated stuff. And I built, obviously not as good, not as high fidelity, but I built a mock-up in 30 minutes by talking to O1 model, the reasoning, and having the code, and then putting it on Bolt, the Bolt platform, which is one of the platforms where you can actually build these prototypes. And that was actually what was needed at this stage. So we could have very quick feedback. And imagine, as you said, cloning, I could do 10 different mockups with different features before we spent any developer time. And of course, before we did any marketing, any sales or anything. So this is definitely an opportunity for product managers. It's going to allow, and I'm seeing, you know, things like Lovable, right? It's a Swedish company that is doing this kind of allowing people to just prompt and you get a product, front end, back end as well. They're talking about thousands of new people launching new products just by talking to this tool. And some of them are actually selling them and rolling them out and launching them. So
That's super
incredible
cool.
stuff.
Yeah, and I think we see the same impact in our business. We're building agents to manage very complex processes, and we realize, well, we don't need to have one clone of this agent running. We can basically have multiple. We can have a team of agents running, helping people. Basically, we can also even clone all the roles and seniority levels in a company in our agents' personalities as well and knowledges. So that's a very cool thing. And we could actually basically say, like, okay, instead of one person managing the process, why don't we have one person on 10 agents? running. And each of
Correct.
them takes one piece of the puzzle and takes it from further.
And I think a whole new category that we're going to see, and it's starting to pop up, is agent marketplaces. And we're seeing this, Salesforce with Agentforce. We're seeing it with HubSpot, right? Building those marketplaces, and you could hire AI agents or a team of agents to do some work for you, right? To do some market research, to do some product design. Like today, you have Fiverr, where you hire real humans. I don't know if Fiverr is going to go down that route, or they have a competition like the AI agents marketplace. And you say, what do I want to do? Oh, I want to have like website design. Can you give me like 10 options? Oh, 10 minutes. It's in your email box. And
Exactly. And I think I'm a big believer in this, because basically we're betting our company on that, right? So we're saying that this is the future of the gig economy. The gig economy will be the agentic gig economy in the future. So you could, instead of hiring consultants, you hire agents acting as consultants for you. And I was actually I just saw a company who's focusing on, okay, what if I disrupt management consultancy by give you a management consultant agent in e-commerce? That was super cool as well.
And if we come back to enterprises and what leaders there should think, they should build their own internal marketplaces
100%.
for AI solutions, right? Because especially in bigger ones, when you have one team doing research, why not share it? Like we used to have silos in data, we should not have silos in agents now, right?
Not at all.
We should be sharing them. We should be building on top of one another, and that will be like a force multiplier.
Yeah, and I think this is a very interesting topic, and maybe one thing that I would also want to touch on as we're moving forward. How do you create not only those kind of marketplaces, but how do you enable collaboration between humans, but also human and AI in your innovation? Because that could be a very cool boosting factor.
Yes, not just, and you're right. It's also cool in the terms of that it's going to add value, because if you're just going to do agents, then you're going to get only that to a certain level. Yes, the tools are going to get better, the models are going to get better, they're more specialized and so forth. If you add the human context, the human flavor, which I hope we will still have for some time, on top of it, you can create exceptional things. And I don't think there's any best practices or any formula for that yet. This is definitely in kind of blueprint writing stage as we're speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we collaborate? Where do we need humans in the loop? There's also responsible AI involved there, right?
Yep.
Do we need to bring it legal, or like real legal, or agent legal, or right? And what kind of oversight and governance? I think also we're going to see shifting regulation around this, right? We're already seeing some of it being rolled out and implemented. We have the AI Act in Europe already, parts of it being in place, and companies need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, in a couple of months it would be fully in force, so people need to pay attention to that. But I think this what you just mentioned is interesting, because really, and that's why we started with this series here on our podcast, and would love to continue discussing this with you as well, is that there's no real playbook, there's no real guidance and for how to deal with this whole shift in thinking. Previously, everybody was focusing on automating blue collar tasks using machine learning and so on. But now basically everything is up for grabs. Doesn't matter what you did, you could get a productivity boost with some sort of an AI agent, and that is something that's starting to get a bit overwhelming for people.
Yes.
Some people basically revert back. Okay, I just did Copilot. I'm happy. Right?
Yeah.
I can write emails, but that's not the real productivity boost that you should be after.
Yes, exactly. And this, I think, coming back to the responsibility of leadership, this is their responsibility. I mean, the field can definitely go, and they should allow and enable the field to reap these kind of productivity, lower hanging fruit, and give them the access to the tools with their relevant guardrails and whatnot. but their responsibility from the board to the C-level and kind of the executives is to think of the entire portfolio, to think of that shift that you were talking about, and how do we reinvent the way that we organize, the organizational structure. I mean, should we have AI agents as a separate unit? Are there shared resources? Are they part of every unit? How do we train managers to manage hybrid teams? Lots of questions for HR as well. So definitely lots to think about in the strategic level.
Cool. But what do you see coming in the future? What are your predictions for the future then?
The risky question, predictions. um, I'm generally I'm a pessimist. Sorry, optimist. I was talking that there is pessimist and optimist. I was thinking, but generally I'm on the optimist side. I think we are going in a good direction. I think things will level out. Between the fights that we have, the different companies. I think there's enough competition. There's enough value for many to grab. The thing that I'm more concerned about is, for example, we're in Sweden, we're in Europe. Can we find the niches, the opportunities for us, and not stay behind in the race? So I do encourage. This is why I share my knowledge. I speak to many people. I try to kind of encourage them and inspire them to not be on the fence, not just remain in the co-pilot level. So this is what I'm concerned about. That people are, because of doomsday scenarios, or because they don't know, and because it's overwhelming. It's definitely overwhelming, even for the experts. They slow down too much. So I encourage everybody to join this ride. I can't predict what will happen. AGI, ASI, however you want to define it and call it. Disruption is coming. I say we should be part of it. We should be leading it. We should be designing those best practices as we go. I'm less afraid of a catastrophe, but hopefully I don't get I don't get this wrong.
No, so speaking of AGI, I don't think people should care about that too much. There's so much to be gained and to be done right now with what we have that nobody's actually touching. That let's leave the AGI problem when it comes, and for the future people who deal with that. I think that's cool. But then let's maybe wrap up quickly. If you want to tell any executive or a management in a company that there are 3 to 4 things that they need to remember and pay attention to, what would they be?
Yes. So the first thing would be think about the portfolio of solutions and strategies that you will have with AI. And as we kind of talked about this during this time, it could be the boosting of productivity, the lower hanging fruit. How do you enable your finance team, your customer service, your research, and all the functions to start reaping those quick wins? Because that's going to build confidence in people. It's going to lower the fear factor. It's going to bring value to you, to your customers, and it's going to start creating that flywheel. So that's part of the portfolio. Secondly, think big, like we just discussed. How can you disrupt the value chains, the way that you do things, by cloning your now maybe nearly unlimited resources, by tapping into the human knowledge but multiplying it? So that's the other element of the portfolio. But at the same time, be very, very intentive in how you choose things, because you can't do everything. There's too many things. So choose specific areas where you can see the most value, both in the short and the longer term, and be the best at those. Don't try to cover it all, because it's impossible.
Cool. And just to reiterate what you just said, what I usually tell companies is that pick one big bet and one low-hanging fruit and put money in both of them to make them happen.
Yes, great advice.
So Amir, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who listened to this. If you're wondering where Samil is, he's in a this undisclosed location for the next couple of weeks. So you have to bear with me and my guests. And I hope that we can have you come back again and with more insights, Amir, in the future.
I will love that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye from me.